So I'm presenting him with a target before I am presenting an offense. So ideally, whether I'm using a gather or a passing step, I want to come in with a threat behind my sword. I want to do this. What's the first thing Robert sees? My sword, right? This means he has to deal with that. He does not get a free shot as I'm stepping in. And I'm actually covered, okay? I didn't do this, because that didn't close any lines, okay? I want to make sure that I'm crossing the plane so that I'm behind my sword. See how my tools are stacked on one side? Okay? And it's the side where opposed to where his sword is. I want that. I want the defense built into my offense. If I don't do that, if I stay square and do this, even if I hit him, there's a good chance I'm going to eat it somewhere. I'm anti-double kills. I find them offensive. It means my art failed. Okay? And certainly I'm anti-leading with my face. So as we're practicing this, whether you're using a passing step, where I'm out here, okay, or I'm using a gathering step, you want to lead with your sword. Now, if you are having trouble with the power of this, because we teach a very ground power-based style, what I want you to think about the fact is that it's actually the same. We're just letting our foot move. So if I'm being old school Western, right? Serve the soup, grind the foot, bang, there is the power. All I'm doing is I'm letting my front foot float with that exact same push. Okay? So I am still grinding and pushing. It's still all the core power. I'm just letting my front foot float when I do it. Okay? Does that make sense? If I am here with that offset hip, I'm doing the core snap with that back foot, all I'm doing is letting the front foot float while I do it. Okay? So the power generation is the same. I'm allowing myself to move when I throw it. Okay? That's how we are able to still generate with power with the legs and the core, but we get to move when we do it. The other thing, as we're moving, so I've done my gather step, I've driven with the back leg, right? Pow. If I want to, I can just go this, but I'm a big fan of doing kind of other stuff. So I like to move through defense on the way to offense, and now I can turn this. So even though I'm moving, my hips are still doing all the work. And in terms of combinations, I want to move through defense on the way to offense, especially with the buckler when you have very little passive defense. If I throw a head to leg, very common, one of my favorites, but I stand in front of Robert and I do this. Boom, boom. It's a good chance I'm going to eat it in the face, right? So what I want to do, there's two things that are important actually. I want to move through defense on the way to offense. So I want to, boom, look at my transition. My transition is through my A-frame. Then I can throw my leg shot. I want to move through defense on the way to offense. The other thing that is really important, particularly with the buckler, is what I call the tool exchange. So I throw this, still going to move through my defense. And then when I throw the leg shot, I'm going to do this. See how I had a high and low, and now I've switched my high and low? Okay. I want to make sure I do not eat it in the face if I throw a low line attack. Right? In the period manuscripts, what they actually show is they show this, and then you transfer and you do stuff like that. We're not quite going to do that. That's not exactly how our combat sport functions, but we do want to put the tool in the way. So, boom, A-frame, tool exchange. Now, did I wait for what Robert was doing and then look and block? No, I had a fundamental position. I just did the tool exchange. And then when I leave, I'm going to tool exchange again. You should always have a high and low covered. Okay, does that make sense? Does anybody have any questions on that? Let's actually go ahead and practice that. I'm not a big combo fan, but I actually think there's some good stuff in there. So let's go ahead and practice being the guy where we're going to, come in, move through our A-frame, tool exchange, leave with the tool exchange. Because, Fred, where do combinations end?
Out of range and in guard.
Woo! Squire gets cookie. All right, get with again, new partner, guys. We're going to practice just a flat snap or a flip, through the A-frame, to the leg, come back out. Okay, so we're going to go slower. So, have your butt here, just keep at it. So, we're going to walk out, pow. Now, we're going to come through our A-frame. So we're going to throw the leg shot, and your buckler should be, there you go, in front though, because your likely shot is there, so you want it to be there. Yes. Stop for a second. That was not an A. You were here.
Didn't come up.
See how my face is open and my forearm's open? That's going to stop. So it's going to be here. We're going to be here because remember that pivot's going to drive us the power. We don't have to pull around our head because our kick is here. So make sure, and feel free to lightly, of course, like kind of turn that little tester to make sure that any player is right. So start out of range, you're way too close.
I would rather choose
A-frame. You want to kind of cover the most obvious ones. What I would recommend is when you do your A-frame, go and let that back foot slow down a little bit. And then you get to your turn. Feel free to just gently walk down the test to make sure that your A-frame is covering that. Yo! It's just range. I see.
It puts me there with your sword.
Brian, can I borrow one of your buckles? Yep. Alright, so the important thing now you can use this. I'm using the penalties especially with you.
I cannot see it. You put your face on the front of the box.
The entrance attack is I would most likely use
more extended than you needed to with the first time.
That's if you roll the light. If you were like the likely
Yes. That puts me in the right spot. But I'm giving you that. Coming through that zone.
No, that was my bad. From the same shot.
Yeah.
It was 11. 11 was the class start, but we things change.
Exactly.
I did post it on the God list, but you guys go with that.
All right, guys, come on back in. So remember, I mean, this is a good exchange, right? This is a good combo to practice, but the concepts are more important than the exact techniques. Can I borrow your sword and work with him really quickly? Can I borrow your weapon? So we're talking about how this might look a little different than the rapier. So do me a favor, kind of come in. So with the rapier, he's more likely to come in with a thrust and a cut, right? But the concept is the same. So go ahead and come up with that thrust, that kind of palm thrust. If I parry, his A-frame takes out my counter parry, or my counter thrust, and then he's going to pivot around and throw his low cut and cover just in case. It's exactly the same thing. So he's going to be with a thrust entry, right? And the tools are slightly different, but the concepts remain the same. All right, so the next thing I want to get into is the idea of layered attacks, which this kind of rolls into. You are unlikely to hit a skilled opponent with your first cut. It does happen sometimes, but it's kind of unlikely, right? I don't go to practice and just one-shot the crap out of people. It just doesn't happen. Yeah. I saw that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Here, actually, I'll pick up the square. So one of the things we talk about is the idea of layered attacks. And we want to make sure, so go ahead and name your stance. This is part of that what's next drill. So if I'm going to attack Fred, okay, Fred, what am I going to throw at you right now? Okay. So Fred can kind of see what's coming, which means even though I'm really fast, his chances are good that he's going to throw. So I want to have a layered attack. I know, based on his body position, how he's going to defend, and I'm going to throw where he came from. Myra says people are most open where they have come from. So one of the things I can do is I can start my flip and then throw that. Right? Now, I did not throw a shot. How is my squire blocking? Okay, now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do that. It takes too long. I know, based on his position, how a human has to defend and where he's likely to be open. Anytime you close the line, a different line will be open. So, flip here. Right? And I knew that before I even threw my first shot. That's what we mean by layered offense. Okay? So, there's different things you can do. So that same palm up thrust, right? If I throw a palm up thrust, he's likely to be here. You didn't block any of those. That's all right. Go ahead and try a block window, just for fun. Okay. So one of the biggest problems I see with fighters of any stripe is they go out and they throw their thing, right? I'm going to go throw combo A, right? Onside, offside, wrap, right? I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. Okay. What if he does something that doesn't make that any good? And I did this. I remember coming up and I'm like, I will just throw that same thing faster and then I'll really get it. I'll just throw it faster, then it'll totally work. And I would throw it really fast, 1, 2, 3. And they wouldn't even have to move. They'd be like, bam, bam, yes, Mark, you're really fast. Didn't work too well. So you have to, who decides what shot you kill your opponent with?
Your opponent.
Your opponent does. They actually tell you what you're going to throw, right? So it's important to decide how you're going to set them up. I like feints. I'm a big fan of them. I like setting things up. Part of why I like to fight from outside of range is that feints are dangerous in range. If I'm here, okay, and I go, ha, and he doesn't buy it, I might get clubbed in the head, okay? So one of the things I like to do is I like to come in behind my threat, okay? I was safe. If he didn't buy it and just threw into that, it's okay, because I'm still covered, I'm not in range. But what I want to do is I want to get inside as I come in, okay? One of the things that we talk about in heavies is what I call the ghost bind, because we don't tend to have this very much. We don't have the bind fight very often in heavy because of retain bounces. We talk instead about crossing the T. So if I'm trying to defeat the defense of his sword, okay, what I want to do is I want to kind of get out in a way where, see, he doesn't even mean to. See how his sword floated out just a little bit in response? So I'm going to come out and cross the T, but before I make contact, that's when I float around. Okay? So touch, boom. And I'm doing this coming in. So I'm crossing the T, and as soon as he flexes out, that's when you come around. So if I go the other way, if I start to go this way, right? So it's the crossing the T. I want to make sure, right about here, I flow into my next thing. So that's the layer defense. So what I would like you guys to do now, really quickly, pair up with somebody new if possible. And I want you to practice crossing the T and hitting where they're going to be open. I can even, this is another way you can do the blind man drill, it's the offensive thing. So if I'm here, right, and I look at Fred, and I'm going to throw a different thing just so they don't think I'm practicing. But if I can look at how he's based, and I can decide where he's going to be open based on what I want to do. So I can be here. I'm going to go very slowly because my eyes are going to be shut. So I can, with my eyes shut, I can throw. Right. There you go. So knowing how a human has to defend, I can throw where I know they're going to be open. With the longsword, one of the things that I do all the time is I get people to step into my shots. So go ahead and just attack. Cool. Now go back. If he did not move, stay put. I literally threw this. I am not throwing at him. Now go ahead and charge. He is stepping into a shot he does not even know is open yet. So that's the kind of thing you do. You throw where you know they're going to be. You could do that based on their tools. You could do that based on their body position. I would argue body position is often superior, but I think tools are often easier. Okay. So please pair up and just practice a very basic 1-2, but have an idea where you want to hit them before you throw your first shot. So if I'm doing this against Fred, I'm going to say, I would like to hit him in the offside leg. Okay. So I'm going to throw my first shot to set that up and then throw the offside leg. And then Fred is going to decide where he wants to hit me. Fred, where are you going to hit me?
Offside hit.
Okay, Fred wants to hit me in the offside hit. So what are you going to do? That's okay. I told you what hitting was. That's fine. Try it again though. How are you going to set me up? Hit me in the offside hit. There you go. Good. So he's figuring out where he's going to hit me based on his second or third intention, not his first. Please pair up. Do that 3 times each, and then we'll start to do the wrapping up process.
Yes.
It all sounds like it.
Want to go first for offense?
How do you look sad?
I'm not. I'm thinking.
Oh, okay. Did we... Here, come be with me. Oh, or be with John, that's better.
Either one. Yeah, sure.
Well, part of it. I know. So.
No, God no. Maybe in a future class. Yeah, make sure you throw a good body. Leave it done there. Throw. Make sure you
Too many motions.
All right. Let's see.
Terrible second intentions. Right, there you go.
Write the book back. Right. You don't want to just If I retry the outside leg, I'm going to start out bring your tools down around them on the outside without actually committing that. Is that how I intended my commitment to ride up?
Get to the right place. Until they had that one.
down, then now step into the low.
Step the other way. Yeah, let
There you go.
that's fine.
You know, if I fake the offside, and I do it doing this, right? It's like there you go. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't save me anything that I haven't spent on actual throws. That's right. Yeah, what I want to do is
No, don't.
I want to get the yeah, exactly. I want to do enough so that I load the other shot, but not so much that I commit to the leader. Flick to the offside. I'll do this side.
Yeah, that's right.
Make those steps. Yeah, that's that. This block.
It felt weird the first time. That one felt real. I was like, oh no, I'm dead. All right.
Because if I start here, well, actually, if I start over here, then I have to.
Fake delays. Yeah. That was nice.
Yeah.
Well, that's a fun one.
Good job.
Looks really nice. Do that. Yeah. Block with my blade. Oh, that would totally work with a real blade. That would have been a straight to block if you had it.
Step to right foot.
Moron.
But if they don't block it, it should become a real shot.
I would say what I do is like, here's the thing I think works
Yeah,
with how
that's right. What's up, who's
what
attacking
happened,
that?
what information is. And if I know somebody, there's like all these
Damn it. Stupid thing. It's just wrong. Yeah, let's try that shot again. There we go.
Yeah.
I'm too close. I'm letting you get too close, I think. What to do? He's got it.
Because unless, I think you're in the same position for unless you need to sell it, you're going to
make that easier to put.
All right, guys, come on in, please. We're about out of time. Ish. Sort of. So I threw a lot of information at you. Any one of those chunks probably could have been a class all by itself, but the way Sword and Buckler functions is such a different animal that I wanted to kind of hit the highlights, and you guys can always work on other stuff or ask me questions later. Let's review really quickly, just to be safe. So we know we've got the idea of the gather step, the passing step, and that offline step. We know we have the idea of the engaging guards where we have our low guard, kind of our hanging guard, and our offset A-frame. We know we have our 1, 2, 3 defensive position, right, and a little click drill to get that going. Do we have questions on those things? Everybody feels good-ish about them? Okay, we have the idea, the concept of the defensive wedge, using my range to minimize the amount I have to move, and understanding that the closer I get to my opponent, the more I have to move to address their attacks. Does everybody feel comfortable with that idea? Okay. Do we have the idea of leading with your sword as opposed to planting and throwing with your face in the way? Okay. And transitioning through defense on the way to offense and exchanging your tools so that you always have a high and low coverage? Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, then I would say I'm going to open it up to random questions, and if there are none, we can be done. And if you think of something later, just let me know. Awesome, you're all masters. Go forth and have fun.
It really just is one way to work on it.